So we'll go right straight into the questions. Please raise your hand so that I can see you and identify yourself. In order to save the time, that I collect several questions together for the Prime Minister to answer.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
So
okay. Take as many as you like.
Okay. And we've been advised that due to Prime Minister Johnson, he's been scheduled. He needs to leave at 3:50. So any time that after 3:50, we have to conclude it. So right now, raise your question. Raise your hand so that I can identify yourself. Okay. First you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. In this order. Yeah.
Hello, Prime Minister.
Hello.
And here.
Please
this is a question from Masa Television. And you have Din Tai Fung last night, and I read you're quite curious about Taiwan cuisine. And any other dishes you are looking forward to trying in Taiwan?
Okay. Next
thank
one.
you. Right.
Next one. No, next one, please. Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Johnson. I am Yui from EBC News, and you were referred as a British Trump. You were with.
Is this the BBC?
No. EBC is from Taiwan.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Hi. No, it's
right,
okay.
Right.
So, and you were mistaken as Trump as well once in the street on the street of New York.
Yeah.
So, you must know him better than we do. So,
yeah.
Two questions.
One question, please.
Oh, sorry. Okay,
yeah.
one question.
So,
besides hairstyle, what do you think you and Trump in common? And on his second term, what do you observe the difference on him?
Okay, then the third one. Yeah. Besides her.
Hi, Prime Minister. Allegra Mendelsohn, The Telegraph. Prime Minister Starmer recently said that the UK might be recognizing Palestine in September. Given that, do you think we could ever see the UK recognize Taiwan?
Okay, now the next one, please. Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Johnson. I'm journalist from News TV in Taiwan. So I have a question that is, you mentioned that you gave up the idea of UK government trying to compete with Taiwan's in terms of that. So, but now President Trump now hoped TSMC to invest more and build a new semi-supply chain there. Is that a smart strategy to boost semi-industry overseas? Thank you.
Okay, and that'll be the end of the first round. Okay.
Hello, my name is Jan. I'm here freelance for the British Times newspaper.
For the what?
The Times.
The Times. Great.
You mentioned in your speech this morning the British policy of strategic ambiguity. I wanted to ask on two fronts, given your strong support for Ukraine and the fact perhaps that the lack of strategic clarity in terms of the backup behind Ukraine is what led to Russia's invasion of that country, and also given the fact that the American administration, Biden administration in the past, has signaled that they would be willing to come to Taiwan's aid, whether given China's rising threats towards Taiwan, it's time perhaps for reconsidering of that British policy of strategic ambiguity, and whether, given that you are now no longer in office, you're able to speak more clearly about this topic.
Okay. Yeah, great. Well, what a bunch of great questions. Thank you very much. So first of all, on my things I eat, I think that was a question about Din Tai Fung. Right, yeah, Din Tai Fung. I sampled a wide variety of dumplings and a very dense kind of suety, doughy sort of snowball type object, which was absolutely delicious. I described it very. The thing I want to eat. The question was, what do I want to try? I think the answer is the pineapple cake. I've been given a box of pineapple cake. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? I'm going to take a box of pineapple cake home to my home. Look, differences or similarities between me and any other politician, I leave it entirely to you. With your superior gift, imagination, adjectives to come up with. I think the differences between the Trump 45 and Trump 47. Look, I think that clearly this is an administration that is in America that is very focused on dancing with people that brung them and delivering on their manifesto. I think that there's a huge focus on actually doing what they said they were going to do. And one of the most horrifying things is that people find it's shocking, but what Donald Trump is trying to do in tackling illegal immigration and doing his tariff policy is actually what he said he was going to do. So I think I'd say that was a distinction. Allegra Mendelsohn asked a question about Taiwan, recognition of Taiwan compared to Palestine. And there clearly is there's an analogy. There are two areas that both have claims, one kind or other. I would say actually that the claim of Taiwan under the Montevideo Convention of 1933, the claim of Taiwan to be recognized by the British state is far more robust, because they actually have a recognized government, and they actually have boundaries that they control. They actually have a proper democratic system, none of which you could say about, with all due respect, none of which you could say about Palestine, least of all those parts that are currently governed by Hamas, right? So there's clearly a distinction there. But, as I said this morning, it's obvious from all my conversations here that that is not where the people of Taiwan are. And they don't actively seek to change unilaterally the status quo by getting recognition as an independent country. They're not asking for that. They're not even asking for that, right? They're asking for something much, much more modest. All they're asking for is the right to be left in peace as a free, democratic country, and not bullied or coerced, and not threatened with the imposition of rule by the Chinese Communist Party. That's all they're asking for, and not threatened with violence, by the way. So I would say that the claims of Taiwan, the actual, under the terms of normal conventions on recognition of states, the claims of Taiwan are far more robust, but the ambitions and requests of the people of Taiwan are extremely modest, and I think that needs also to be respected. And you asked, I think, about, somebody asked a question about semiconductors. Is that right? And what's happening with the US setting up a semiconductor fab in the United States? So Trump setting up. Did somebody ask that?
Yeah.
I think that's right. Look, as I said this morning, when I became Prime Minister in 2019, I was acutely conscious of this imperative for the UK to try to catch up in what was obviously the crucial industrial component of the 21st century. These really amazing semiconductors, these microprocessors. And as I said this morning, I said to my team in Number 10, I said, what would it cost to make a fab? What would it cost to make a fabrication plant? And they said about £9 billion. And I said, well, that's not a huge amount of money, but maybe it was worth doing anyway if we could somehow recover our technological edge in this area, because it's clearly so important. And then they said, well, actually, yes, we could do it, but it would take an awfully long time to set up, and then we might not even be able to produce chips, microprocessors of the same quality as Taiwan, because by the time we've taken to get the whole thing going, Taiwan would have improved. And so in the end, our best bet, I think, is to protect Taiwan and make sure that we have a strong relationship between the UK and Taiwan, and are able to import Taiwanese microprocessors. And because you guys are brilliant at it, and you have a world lead, and it's a simply astonishing fact. 95%, possibly even more, of the microprocessors needed for advanced AI, which is the most extraordinary cognitive advance of my lifetime. 95% of the chips you need for AI are made here, in Taiwan. And one of the many reasons why we should develop our relationship. And then John from the Times asked a question about strategic clarity. and the fateful ambiguity before the invasion of Ukraine? It's a very, very good question, and it was spot on, because I do agree with you. One of the problems with Ukraine was that we were, and it's still a problem, we're still not willing to say that Ukraine should be part of NATO, right? We're still not being clear about the ultimate geostrategic destination, security destination of Ukraine. That is a problem. That is a fateful ambiguity. Now, actually, I think that if we'd been clear about it before 2022, and if the Americans had got their way in 2008, and if Ukraine had been part of NATO, as George Bush requested, then it is conceivable that that invasion by Putin would never have happened. So I think you're really onto something. But I think that what the difficulty with the analogies are imperfect, right? Between Ukraine and Taiwan, there's not a direct read across, and what the crucial difference is, of course, that Ukraine is and had been a sovereign state since 1991, internationally recognized, not least by Russia and China and everybody else, right? Taiwan, as we've been discussing, is in a different case, different position. And despite having, as I say, so many of the seeming attributes of statehood and so many of the claims for international recognition, it is a measure of the modesty of the people of Taiwan that they don't even want that. They're not calling for that. They just want to protect the status quo. They just want to settle this problem in peace across the Straits of Taiwan. And so I think you're right in what you say about Ukraine, but the read across doesn't quite work, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. We'll start with the second round, and first here, here, that, and then that, the 4 questions.
Shirley Young from CNA, and following on my peers,
CNA is a
Central
Taiwan
News Agency.
Oh, yes.
And following on my peers'
Is that a
question,
Chinese news agency?
No, Central News Agency about Taiwan.
Yeah, great.
and my question is this, and you mentioned that the analogy is not quite valid between Ukraine and Taiwan. However, and when is the time or what circumstances is for Taiwan to, or for the Western countries to adapt clarity in terms of cross-strait situation?
Okay, the next one. Yeah.
Prime Minister, I'm from SET TV, and I would ask, how do you plan to support Taiwan despite not in office, and what is your advice on how Taiwan should align our interest with UK to ensure shared interest and mature cooperation? Thank you.
Okay, the one behind.
Thank you. I'm Julie from Thai Southeast and a digital media outlet in Taiwan. And your term as Prime Minister overlapped in the part with President Trump in the first term. So now the world is facing the tariff measures and authoritarian pressure. We couldn't get the kind of deals of the UK has that managed. And let's hope that President Trump might offer clear support on Indo-Pacific security. So do you have any advice for how the Taiwanese government can engage or communicate or negotiate with him in the future? And is there any way you can might be able to help us? Thank you.
Thank you. And then here's the last one. Yeah.
I'm so happy to see you. I'm Bill Lemers now. And there, I'm the journalist from the Next TV. And the question is, Taiwanese reciprocal tariffs on the U.S. is currently 20%. Are there any suggestions or negotiation tips you can share with Taiwan? Thank you.
What's the tariff? The tariff.
General tariff we're at 20%, and UK is about 10%.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So Central News Agency question about, back to this analogy. Look, I think as I tried to say, I think that you've got to be careful not to press it too far. But there is clearly one point of comparison which is very, very important. Because at the moment, officially, from Beijing, we are being told that Taiwan could be unified with communist China by force. Right? I think that's the express doctrine. And I think that we really need to pause and think what that could involve, because when you change the constitutional position unilaterally by force, which is what Putin tried to do in February 2022, you set off a chain of events that you cannot control. And that would be my message to everybody. Trying to use force in situations like this can lead to utter disaster, not just for the world, but for you too. You're firing, as I said earlier, a Sarajevo pistol, and you don't know where it's going to end. And in that sense, I think there is a clear analogy between the two situations. And look on what the UK and Taiwan should be doing together. We're two islands, island peoples, sharing the same geostrategic perspectives. Neither of us want to see a change in the balance of power in this part of the Asia-Pacific region. Neither of us want to see a change in the composition of the first island chain. Certainly not. Nor does the United States, by the way, in my view. We share economic ambitions, and I think we should do more. I was thrilled to see that we don't have diplomatic relations, formally so-called, but we have an office, and it's very busy, and things are picking up, and there is more and more work being done, and the volume of trade both ways is actually growing, which is a great thing. And as I said, I was thrilled to be. I'm going to get it wrong again. Din Tai Fung. I was thrilled to be Din Tai Fung, where they had this unimaginable variety of dumplings. Because I remembered that the guy who was there was somebody I'd actually met in London when I opened the first Din Tai Fung in London. And there are now several. So I see strengthened economic partnership. And above all, I think that what must happen now is that the Western powers, the Europeans, must not tiptoe away from their engagement with Taiwan out of nervousness of offending China. Now is the time to show that we care. Now is the time to show that we believe in these values and that we're willing to stand together with Taiwan. Because the more emphatic we can be now about the need to protect freedom in Taiwan, the more misery, believe me, we can save later on. I'm absolutely certain of that. And I think the next question was, what do we do? Somebody asked, rather flatteringly, what advice would I have to engage with Donald Trump? I mean, I think, I believe that the president is fundamentally a big supporter of Taiwan, and I think that he's in a position now where he's having to be a bit tactical rather than strategic, because he's trying to do a trade deal with China, as everybody knows, and that's why we're seeing some of this slightly puzzling events of the last few days. I think fundamentally, Donald Trump is going to want to make sure that his presidency, I'm sure of this, his presidency is going to perpetuate a free, democratic Taiwan. And he certainly won't want to see that extinguished in his time. That's what you do on the tariffs. Well, obviously, I think personally, I'm a free trader, right? I don't see why we're having these tariffs. I'm glad, by the way, that thanks to Brexit, hooray! Thanks to Brexit, we have low tariffs in the UK, or low tariffs being inflicted on the UK, much lower than the deal that we've got is actually much better than the EU deal. That, and in all seriousness, that would not have been achieved without Brexit. But as to how Taiwan can imitate that and achieve that, here's an idea. What Donald Trump likes is deals. Come up with a deal. That's what I'd say.
Thank you.
Give him a success.
I'll say that you are right earlier that Taiwan does not actively seek for the recognition, diplomatic recognitions, but we are really glad to receive any recognitions granted to us, as we are very much protective of our remaining recognitions because they're important to us. So I think that thank you very much. Thanks for the Prime Minister for generously giving his time. He has a plane to catch, so we have to excuse him for leaving. So thank you very much.
Excuse me for living. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let's bring up. That's fine. No, that's fine. Sorry.
You still have time?
Maybe we've exhausted the appetite of this one. Does anybody have any questions left? There's quite a lot of people.
Okay.
Why don't we start with three more?
There are three more. Okay.
The guy John from the Times we've done, right?
Sure. 1, 2, and what's 3? Okay, there's 3. Respond.
Thank you. I'm Calvin from Taiwan News. And do you see room for post-Brexit UK and EU coordination on Taiwan-related issues such as trade diversification or supply chain resilience?
Yes. I can answer that very briefly. Yes, I think that the EU is showing signs of really being much more muscular and engaged on Taiwan than it has been. I think it's a great sign.
Okay, the next one.
You previously said that fallout over Ukraine.
Could you identify yourself, please?
Sorry, Allegra Mendelsohn, The Telegraph.
Oh, hang on, Allegra. We've had you before.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody else?
I think this. Anyone who did not ask question? Okay. Yes.
Mr. Johnson, my name is Walter Liu for Business Today, a major business publication in Taiwan. My question is, after the recent NATO summit, major European countries, like including UK, France, Germany, are preparing to burden more of the EU collective defense demand. But I think should any contingencies take place in this part of the world, it should be logical that European countries are unlikely to do anything about it militarily. So in that case, how we in Taiwan should look at the Carrier Strike Force 25 underway, or the aka Operation High Mast of the Royal Navy now in East Asia. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just answer that, and then let's knock this on the head. So I think it's very, very important that everybody in NATO, and that includes almost everybody in the EU, except Ireland, I think, everybody in NATO should be spending more on defence, and the UK is now at last going up to where I wanted it to be, nearer to 3%, but it's got to go fast. And I'm very glad that Taiwan is also going up to 3% of GDP spending on defence. That's essential. I think that I'm a believer in what we call the Indo-Pacific tilt when we did the Strategic Defence Review in 2021. I think that the UK, other European countries have a great deal to contribute in this part of the world, and it's one of the reasons why we had the Carrier Strike Group and FOMOPS operations and so on and so forth. I know that there are some voices in Washington who basically say leave it all to the United States. I don't think that's I think we should do it together. And I think what John Healey, the UK Defence Secretary, had to say the other day was bang on. The UK, Australia, America, these are countries that have worked together side by side for decades and decades on problems like this, and I'm sure we will do in the future. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks everyone.
And just wait, down, please.